Well, President Trump is hoping to turn his signature economic policy into a payout for everyday Americans. But his idea to send $2,000 checks to Americans is drawing a mixed reaction as experts await more details about how this would be implemented. So how is it all going to work? We're going to talk about it with Doug Flynn, certified financial planner and co-founder of Flynn Zito Capital Management. Always great to see you. All right. I mean, this is a high promise, right? You know, the Wall Street Journal editorial board argues this is just a distraction from the unpopularity of the tariff, saying, hey, look over here, writing that the president is, quote, trying to dull the public's tariff pain with direct payments that he can take credit for. So what do you make of this argument that's being brought up by the Journal?
Yeah, he definitely does like direct payments because he even put Trump on the check that people would get. That's certainly something he likes to do. But, you know, it's estimated that we're going to be raising $300 billion a year from these tariffs. I think they've already raised $200 billion through the end of September. So if this is going to cost, let's say, $600 billion, that's the estimate. I guess what they're saying is, you know, this is a one-time cost, of course. So perhaps by the end of next year, it's covered. And then after that, it would be accretive to the country. But you can't pay down the deficit and give all this to everybody at the same time. But we don't know all the details. We don't know if there's what the income limits are, whether kids are going to be included like they were during COVID. Those are some of the details. So we don't have any real numbers. And I don't know that we should even believe all the numbers from the government about how much they raise and how much they're going to raise. But it is somewhat of a distraction from that. But putting money in the hands of people who could use it right now is not necessarily the worst thing.
Right. I mean, people's ears have definitely perked up with this one, wanting to know when's my Trump check coming in the mail, going to their mailboxes now. So we'll have to wait and see how this all shakes out. Also, I wanted to ask you about this settlement that two of the largest credit card companies just reached with merchants. Could this lead to tiered pricing depending on what credit card you use? I mean, that's a big question here. The Wall Street Journal is writing that, quote, using your credit card at the checkout is set to get a lot more complicated. We don't want complicated, but that could be what's going to happen. What does it mean for shoppers?
I think it could get more complicated. If you remember, there was a time, for the longest time, that merchants were not allowed to add surcharges to credit card payments. In order to accept it, they had to charge the same amount for cash. And then, lo and behold, in the last couple of years, that went by the wayside. Now everyone seems to be charging somewhere in that 2 to 3% range. And so this is just, you know, they have all the data. Visa, Mastercard has all the data. They know exactly what people are spending on. They know exactly how much the premium cards are versus the mid-market cards versus the basic cards, and the ones with more perks cost more because they have to be administered in that way. And so what happens is you could see a divergence there in and around that 2 to 3% range, where cheaper ones charge less, more expensive ones charge more. But you know, you can't go to 4% no matter what they do, because that's a deal breaker for people. People will not use the cards and they don't want that. So I could see a little bit of tiered pricing in there. They already have all the data.
All right. Well, we'll see how that shakes out as well. And also, you seem like a very friendly guy, Doug. So I've got to ask you about this friendly thing that's going on with Target. It's launching a new program in an effort to boost sales involving worker friendliness under the so-called 10-4 program. So if you haven't heard about this, employees are directed to make eye contact and greet customers within 10 feet and ask if they need help or how their day is going if they come within 4 feet. Will this actually help sales as the company is hoping? I don't know. Some people like to go to the store and be left alone. Other people might like the conversation. Do you think this is going to work?
I don't know if I'm a big fan of forced niceness, if you will, and you know, it have to come across genuine. Look, there are other companies that certainly do this. Walmart already does it. Disney definitely does it, and then of course you have the higher end ones like Ritz-Carlton, whatever. So it can be effective, but you know, it's one thing to have been hired with that as part of what being hired is, versus making the entire force out there convert to this and be nice. I think, you know, look, Target has had a lot of problems. They've started to turn things around. The COO is becoming the new CEO in February, and this is one of his pet projects. And so I think, you know, look, it looks good for them that they are starting to turn around. The overall experience, the customer experience, is something that's really important. They've had declining sales. They have to turn it around. I think it can work, but I think it has to be genuine. I don't know. We'll see how much that actually is.
Right. And people might need to be trained in it, too. I mean, you know, if you get an answer, how's it going for you today, sir? and somebody unloads on you, you got to be ready for that. So we'll see how this program goes. Doug Flynn, always good to see you. Thank you so much.
You too.
Thank you.